Hey guys, welcome back to Critical Flick. Today we're going to be talking about episode 5 of the Righteous Gemstones on HBO. So with this episode, we are getting a flashback to 1989. We are seeing when Jesse Gemstone was just a young child, also Judy Gemstone, and we're seeing the family dynamic before the Amy Lee passed away. Also getting a little bit more of why Baby Billy is the black sheep of the family, why Eli has such an issue with him, and I think their dynamic is one of the most interesting things on the show. You have such a over-the-top, ridiculous con man-esque character in Walton Goggins' Baby Billy, who really just is so bombastic when he's on the screen. He really steals the show, in my opinion. And you have the much more subdued Eli, played by John Goodman. And when those two clash on screen and you really bring out the more fiery side of Eli when he's going up against Baby Billy, I think those are some of the best scenes. And I think earlier, 2 episodes ago, we had a really good scene. And this one has quite a few of those same type scenes. I think for this flashback, they really nailed it. They really nailed the late 80s vibe. Everybody's dressed in that late 80s style. And it's kind of something that you associate with televangelists. I feel like its heyday was like the 70s, 80s. I mean, I'm not really well versed on my televangelist history, but when I think of them, I think of that time period, that over the top, big hair, everything's all ridiculous and everything like that. So it nailed it, and I really liked the fact that they went back and showed a little bit more of the family dynamic and how things were between Eli and his wife. And you kind of understand why he is so somber in the other episodes and why his mood has changed so much. It was really good seeing John Goodman's portrayal of an Eli previous to his loss and him being a little more vibrant and a little more lively, and how much he really loved his wife and how important she was to the family. And with that relationship being so strong, you do see why Baby Billy is at such odds with Eli. Baby Billy kind of is the kind of person that only cares about himself. He loves his sister in a way, but in a way that helps move his life forward. He only really cares about his success and his money, and he's willing to, risk the health of his sister to do so. And Eli doesn't sit well with that. At the end of the day, there are characters in this show that are redeemable, and Eli is one of them. You have Jesse Gemstone, who is just, at the end of the day, a really bad person, and you're seeing it in this episode how he was like that as a child, and maybe his upbringing and his influence with Baby Billy made him the way he is. Something that's a little different for the show, this episode had some really heartfelt family moments, especially between Amy Lee, Eli, and Jesse, and them coming to him when he made his mistakes and telling him, everything's going to be better, how they all care for each other. Even had a really sweet moment at the end of the episode with Eli and his children. So I thought that was interesting. This show gets a little off the rails sometimes. It gets a little ridiculous, and I love that about it. I think it's hilarious, and I do like that this episode was a little bit of a change of pace for that. Because I feel like shows that are ridiculous, over-the-top comedies have to strike a balance. It gets a little exhausting sometimes when things are just totally zany and over the top. And then you have an episode like this, which is a little more sombering, a little more backstory, but it does have some ridiculous moments, especially in Judy's birthday party. But yeah, I liked it. I think it was a good change of pace episode. Jennifer Nettles' portrayal of Amy Lee Gemstone was really well done. I didn't even know that she was half of the group Sugarland when she and Baby Billy go up there and sing that song, Misbehavin', which is just an instant hit, in my opinion. When she goes up and performs that, she was really good. And Walton Goggins was really good if it was actually him singing. So I was kind of surprised and taken back by that, and I had to look up who she was and who this actress was, and it turns out she's actually a really well-accomplished country singer. And, I was impressed. I think her performance was pretty solid, and I thought that everyone in this episode was pretty solid. Like I said, John Goodman and Walton Goggins' confrontation was really well done. I think Walton Goggins, in general, on this series is really good, and I would not be surprised if he gets nominated for a Best Supporting Role for this at the Emmys or something like that, because he's always good in these shows. He's such a good supporting character. He was great in Justified, Vice Principals. Everything they throw him into, he just goes full into it. He steals the show every time he's on there. And this is another episode where you're seeing kind of his devolution from a character that is, on top of his game to falling down to where we see him now. And they do flash forward at the end of this episode and kind of seeing where Eli is and seeing where he is. You're seeing you're going to have a conflict. You're seeing that Baby Billy is maybe holding something deep down, resenting Eli, and he wants to take everybody down in his own way, and we might just see that. The one thing that was just a little bit lacking for me in this episode, and that's just because it is a flashback episode, you don't get some of the great performances from some of the great cast members. Obviously, Danny McBride's not in this one, Adam DeVine's not in this one, and also Gideon, with that really interesting character and a really interesting storyline, him not being in it, kind of takes a little bit away from it, kind of cuts up the story as it's progressing, because that is going to be a very key plot point moving forward, and not having it in this episode may reel things back a little bit. But overall, I think it was a good episode to set up these characters, their history, and maybe why Baby Billy and Eli are at such odds. So yeah, at the end of the day, I thought it was a pretty solid episode. Alright guys, let me know how you felt about this episode. Did you like the throwback flashback episode? Sometimes they can be a little jarring in TV series, especially one that's as short as this. We haven't really had a huge amount of setup with these characters to bounce back to their childhood and their youth, but I thought it worked out pretty well, and I feel like I get a little more character, especially with Eli, and understanding how he is feeling losing his wife that he was so close to and was willing to protect and do anything for. So let me know how you felt about the episode. Comment down below. Remember to like and subscribe, and see you guys next time.